Are you worried to leave your home because your Australian Shepherd has serious separation anxiety? Well, today's the video for you. Welcome back to the Fenrir Australian Shepherd Show. My name's Joe and I'm a certified canine leader here at FenrirCanineLeaders.com. We are dedicated to helping you learn everything you could possibly want to know about the Australian Shepherd, and then how to become a high-level canine leader so you can raise your very own. So if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a future upload. Having an Australian Shepherd with separation anxiety can cause a real strain on the relationship between you and the dog. It means that you can't leave the home, you can't go to work, you can't go and see your friends because you're going to be leaving them at home, crying and potentially destroying things in your home because of their separation anxiety. So today we're going to be tuning into a webinar that the CEO and founder of FenrirCanineLeaders.com, Will, has recorded all about separation anxiety and how to deal with that.
So then let's dive into one of our quickfire webinars about probably what is the most heartbreaking behaviour that as any canine behaviourist has to help people go through, and especially for the owners that are living with a dog with severe separation anxiety. It's a very heartbreaking, it's an emotionally driven behaviour that nobody wants to see a dog go through, but the positive is that it can have extremely high rehabilitation rates to be very successful if you break it down and go through the process effectively. Now, when it comes to separation anxiety, it's one of those things that so many people don't really think about, especially when they're getting their new puppies, and it's something that is always the case. I try and stress to as many people as I can about the importance of being proactive and preemptive. Now, don't worry, I understand that people watching this, if you're watching this as an owner in particular, you're here because you want a fix to a dog that already has separation anxiety, or if you're coming at it from the professional side as a trainer or a behaviourist, you want to understand my approach to being able to help clients and potentially you to be able to help your clients with separation anxiety. But I want to take a second just to stress the importance of trying to encourage owners and people, your clients alike, the importance of just putting the work in up front with separation anxiety. It's one of those things, it's a hard, arduous process to go through to rehabilitate true separation anxiety, and it's the epitome of just putting in the effort up front so that you never have to go through this in the first place. So again, let's jump into actual kind of modification and rehabilitation of separation anxiety now, but it's very worth noting that if you can, maybe you work with owners with puppies, really make sure that as part of your methodology you're helping people be proactive and preemptive with separation anxiety, because it's always the best way and the best approach.
Hey guys, very quickly, I just wanted to interrupt and let you know about our bootcamp program if you've never heard of it before. It's the program that as a canine behaviourist I use every single day with all of the clients and all of the bad behaviour cases that I work with to high levels of success. It is focused on teaching you how to become a high level canine leader that is able to restructure the relationship with your dog so that they see you as that leader and they know to look up to you for guidance and direction. When we achieve that, we can then finally address those bad behavior problems and get to the point of having the perfect canine companion that you've always dreamed of. So if you want more information about our bootcamp program, the link will be down in the description box below. But until then, let's get back to the video you were just watching.
Right then, so let's dive into the first thing that must be done with all cases of separation anxiety, and we're going to get to kind of more why in a little bit, and that is around determining, is it actually separation anxiety? And we're going to discuss that in a little bit more detail later on, but I want you to understand that as a behaviourist that's worked with lots of cases like this, I'm still helping people in particular online with cases like this. It's one of those things that actually can be done at a distance quite easily. But being able to help people understand, do you have a dog that is suffering from severe legitimate separation anxiety, or do you have a dog that is obnoxious and is displaying a learnt behaviour to get what it wants, which might be your attention, to be let out of a crate, to be let out of a room that you're confining it in. Being able to differentiate those two things can be very difficult for some owners. As a professional, it's usually quite easy to be able to go in and work out quite quickly which one it is. And I must say that it is quite rare to have actual real separation anxiety, and it's far more common to have a dog that's learnt that if it cries, yelps and barks, chance that it will be let out of the crate that it's in or the room that it's in. So we always start with kind of two things. The first thing is exercise. A tired dog is a happy dog. Let's give you an example over there. That dog over there, Sully, my Labrador, working lab, will work and run for hours and hours on end. He has zero separation anxiety and will not move from that comfortable spot on the sofa over there for the next 6 hours while we're working today. And that is because he's been out for 2 hours this morning, hiking and doing some retrieval work from water. He is exhausted and he is far too tired to be worrying about being pent up. Now, I could put him in my office next door. He was in the crate in the back of the van going to and from Cannock Chase where we took him. We don't hear a peep from him because he's content, he's tired, and he's blown off that excess energy. It couldn't be more important. So always start with drastically increasing exercise. It just releases that pent-up frustration, that pent-up anxiety, and a dog will then be much happier to kind of give over to just relaxing, calming down, and settling down. One of the most common causes of more the obnoxious behaviours is just simply too much pent-up energy. They're bored and it's easy for them to bark, yap, run around, dig up things, chew things, destroy things. All the symptoms of separation anxiety might actually simply just be a bored dog that's got pent-up energy, and just simply by increasing the amount of exercise will fix the separation anxiety. Which then does take us on to what is always the hardest bit. And now this is where I like to do this with all of the people that I work with, just because I think it is the base and the foundation of everything is relationship and leadership. That relationship comes from excellent leadership on the owner's part. If you're a calm, consistent canine leader, you can build a superb relationship with your dog where you can communicate effectively with them, both the things that you do want and the things that you don't want. And that might be around obnoxious, excessive barking that might be deemed separation anxiety, but like I say, it might actually just be an obnoxious dog with a learnt behaviour around this kind of excessive crying, yelping, barking, digging, scratching, destroying things. Again, the symptoms of separation anxiety. So the way we help our clients with that is going through our Fenrir bootcamp process. We do have an online version of it, by the way, if you're interested. There'll be a link in the description box below. But what we do is we go through that process with our owners to allow them to restructure that relationship. As part of that process, naturally, we put in a lot more exercise. And again, with separation anxiety, it's a month-long process. And by giving it to our owners as kind of the micro issue of separation anxiety, what's actually happening is they're fixing the macro issue, which is around leadership, relationship, and communication, which then inherently, by treating that at the root cause at the macro level, then makes these micro issues disappear. So that's something that I highly encourage, that if you're a professional, you go through a process like that with the owners that you're helping, or if you're watching this as an owner's perspective, putting yourself through something like that, going through that process with your dog so you can restructure that relationship. By doing that first, drastically increasing the exercise, I'd probably say 8 times out of 10, that will fix separation anxiety itself. And then the remaining 2 times out of 10 will be then much easier to deal with because you now have that relationship, that structure, those rules, boundaries and expectations, and the inherent trust from the dog in you as its leader, which then makes the actual modification and rehabilitation of real separation anxiety go far much smoother than just trying to jump into those methods. Because if you've got a dog with true separation anxiety, it often comes from fear, anxiety, which stems, the root cause of that is a lack of leadership and a lack of trust in the guidance and direction of that leader in that scenario. So again, exercise, restructuring the relationship, utilising our bootcamp process, will fix the vast majority of separation anxiety issues. And then if it doesn't, we can then move into probably the realms of, okay, we now have a severe, legitimate case of real separation anxiety as opposed to obnoxious learnt behaviours. And this is where we then have to go through kind of a modification program of the behaviour. We have to start desensitizing triggers of separation anxiety, and we have to rehabilitate and modify the behaviours of those triggers to allow the dog to settle, to be content, and to not associate those triggers of being left on its own with the induction of true panic, which is what true separation anxiety is. The best way you can describe it in a dog's perspective is that it would be like somebody that has a true phobia of spiders. That level of panic of being left on their own is what real separation anxiety is. And like I say, that's actually quite rare. The more prevalent issue is just obnoxious learnt behaviours that by going through those other processes will have been addressed by now. And if we're still then left with extreme actual separation anxiety, well, at least we've tired our dog out, we've released a lot of pent-up energy through our addition of a lot more exercise, and we've also restructured the relationship so the dog inherently trusts us more, and we have a better communication pathway through that relationship, which then will allow us to now do these kind of modification programs. So what we need to do is you need to go through a very quick, again, this is kind of a quick fire breakdown. We could do whole day-long seminars on separation anxiety, but I want this to not run on for too long. It's a quick fire webinar version. So we need to desensitize the triggers. Now, a dog with real separation anxiety will have a trigger associated with the anxiety. It might be picking up the keys because they know you're leaving. It might be you tying up your shoes, putting your coat on. What we want to do is desensitize those triggers. So we're going to rub the keys, but we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to put our shoes on, but we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to put our shoes on, and if the dog doesn't freak out, we're then going to reward that behavior. And we want to try and flip the script on where the dog associates that trigger as an extreme negative that is then leading to the panics, like that fight or flight response, which is then causing the true separation anxiety. We want to kind of flip that on the script. It takes patience, but it, like I say, it has extremely high success rates. So we go through desensitizing those triggers, trying to associate a positive with those triggers. One of the best things that I like to do is, I think, crate training with separation anxiety is actually huge. You have to be very patient, and you want to make the association of the crate an incredibly positive thing. So I'd probably go through like a 2-week positive association phase of the crate before I ever lock in the dog in the crate, just to make the crate an incredibly positive, lovely, warm, inviting, happy association with the dog with the crate. We then start to utilize what I would use a frozen Kong, fill it full of beautiful meat pate and freeze it. And then as part of the desensitizing of the triggers, what I would do is I'd get the dog to sniff the Kong, put it in the crate, but lock the door. Don't let the dog go in. So the dog will be trying to find a way into the crate, and they love the crate and they want to get in there. I would then display that trigger. Might be a jingling of the keys. It might be tying my laces up. Once that trigger has been established, I then open the door to the crate and give them access to the crate and shut the door behind them, and then don't go anywhere. Then you take the trigger away. So I might take the shoes off, put the keys back in the bowl, open the crate door and back open. And again, it's about not only desensitizing the trigger, but going a step further of actually creating an incredibly positive connotation with it. Doing that over and over with that frozen Kong and that like blocking of access to something that is extremely delicious for the dog over time, then when those triggers are being used because you actually need to leave, means that the dog will start to associate you leaving with an exciting thing and almost wanting you to go, because they know that, well, when you go, I get access to this frozen Kong, so hurry up, mate, off you go. I'm really looking forward to you going because I get access to this wonderful thing. Then as we build up on that, so again, we're giving them access. We then might walk out of the door for 1 second and walk back in, take shoes and keys off, and go through that process. Then 2 seconds, and 5 seconds, and 10 seconds, back to 5 seconds, up to 20 seconds, back to 10 seconds, up to 30 seconds. And we're just building up gradually, and building up to a place where we build a really positive association with you leaving. They're in their lovely, wonderful, calm, inviting space that we've built around positive association with the crate. We've built in utilising something like a frozen Kong to get them to build actually an excitement trigger about you leaving because they want you to go. And what we're also going to do is then when we go in, we need to remove all emotion. We need to make leaving an emotionless affair. We also need to make coming home a completely emotionless affair. So every time we leave the dog, there's no saying goodbyes. There's no, oh, it's going to be okay, buddy, I'll be back soon. Again, it's nonsense. The dog has no idea. All you're doing is adding in that anxious energy into the situation. We want to be calm, consistent leaders that we just go. When we come back, we don't go, oh, buddy, so good to see you. And the dog's been shaking and you come in and then you reinforce that anxious behaviour. We're going to come back in and we're going to ignore the dog until they're calm and relaxed. When they're calm and relaxed, then we can go in and greet the dog, say hello, praise them, let them out, play with them. And we build up that connotation. Not only are we desensitising the triggers, but we're actually creating incredibly positive associations with those same triggers. We're also desensitising the leaving and coming from that in itself is a trigger, but by us making that an emotionless, cold affair, we're desensitising the coming and going part of the process, and then ignoring the dog until they're displaying calm, quiet behaviours means that we're also reinforcing the desirable behaviour, which is to be relaxed, calm and quiet. We do that process. You can do that alongside the boot camp. You can do it after the boot camp. There's lots of different ways that you can tackle this problem, but it has an incredibly high success rate, and it's just about going through the process consistently. Now, the next kind of caveat to that is people that work. Obviously, that kind of going through a process like that is a long process, and you can't have a lot of people can't just have a month off work to deal with this problem. So I highly recommend saying, right, from the 1st of next month, we're going to deal with separation anxiety. We're going to get on top of this. We're given that whole month, and I'm going to pay to take my dog to doggy daycare every single day. So while we're going through that process, at no point, what you don't want to do is take one step forward while you're going through this process, but then have to leave for 8 hours, put them back into that fight or flight response, and then them lose their minds and you're taking 10 steps back. It can make the process much, much more difficult. So either take the dog to a friend's house where they can stay and just remove the issue altogether, control the variables, take that separation anxiety off the table completely, and then we can go in and set our dogs up for success going through a rehabilitation program like this. If you can do that, send to a dog's home, pay somebody, not to a dog's home, to a friend's home, send the dog to a friend's home for the day while you're out at work, take them to a doggy daycare, have a dog sitter come and sit at your house, find somebody that will kind of do you a favour and will come and chill at your house for the day, every day for that month while you're going through this rehabilitation program. And then throughout that program, you're building up that slowly time of them being left on their own, like we discussed, from 1 second to 5 seconds. And you'll be surprised if you're drilling that a few times a day, you can quickly get to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20, half an hour, an hour. And by the time you get to those kind of numbers, you're pretty much on top of the problem. And then it's just extending that out to the amount of time. And then what you might find is, okay, well, we've found a bit of a threshold at an hour, and we're going to now work on getting it from an hour to 2 hours. We get it to 2 hours. Okay, now we're going to have somebody come over halfway through the morning at lunch and then halfway through the afternoon to break it up a little bit while we try and stretch it out to that full day. That's kind of my quick breakdown. Like I say, you could do multiple day seminars on the real details of separation anxiety, but that's kind of the overarching theory. Determine, is it obnoxious learnt behaviour? Is it true separation anxiety? Regardless, we need to put in a lot more exercise and we need to restructure the relationship. If that doesn't cure it, which if it's obnoxious learnt behaviour, that will cure the problem, then we've got real separation anxiety. If we have got real separation anxiety, then we go through a modification and rehabilitation protocol like that, and you'll come out the other end with a dog that is content and happy to be left on their own. So I hope that helps. Get out there, help your clients with this issue, help your dog with this issue, and I promise you we'll have much happier, healthier dogs out there because of it.
I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If so, make sure you get involved in the comments down below, as we would love to hear all about how you're getting on with your Australian Shepherd. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell, as we have 2 dedicated videos coming here every single week. So I can't wait to see you in the next episode of the Fenrir Australian Shepherd Show.